What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. So I took a day off because what happened last Saturday, it was like a mixed feeling kind of reaction. Jake Barber came forward with the story about essentially a secret program that uses people with psionic abilities to pilot UAP. That was the big story of Saturday. It was not the egg that was shown on video. And also, just a few clarifications here. Ross Coulthard did mention in his after show that the video of the egg did not come through Jake Barber. The reason he included it in Jake Barber's testimony and story is because Jake Barber told him that he had seen eggs before during his time in the program. And there's a video clip where they show that one of these psionic assets that works for his company, Skywatcher, did allegedly control one of these eggs. And they show the video. So here's the clip of Skywatcher, the company Jake Barber leads, and them engaging with one of these UAP. And apparently a dogfight even broke out when they were doing this. There's images and everything. So check. So there's a lot of different types of reactions to this. And I do want to say a couple of things specifically about psi abilities, because this is something that I know there's a lot of people that absolutely don't believe any of this. They claim that there's no evidence at all for any of it, but there is a lot of literature for almost over a century of literature talking about these abilities. And if you go way back in history, you can tell that some movements, some historical moments in time, such as the Holy Inquisition, the Salem witch trials, stuff like that, has been misconstrued throughout history, because the Holy Inquisition was to capture and, in sometimes, in some cases, unalive people who were considered either witches or warlocks. And let's just stay on that for a little bit, yeah? Imagine you are one of the newest type of religions out there, only about less than 1,000 years old, and you're trying to assert your dominance in the world, this dominance of faith. Imagine you start finding people with unusual abilities that you really don't understand. But all of this baggage of religiosity and a lot of the misconstrued ancient scripture and misinterpreted ancient scripture is driving you to not only judge and segregate people with these types of skills, but also end their lives. And this has been happening systematically for, I can already say, millennia. It is something that people who have these skills, and I'm saying they have them, because if you have been following my channel, one of the only pieces of proof that I have about this phenomenon is the fact that we do have some type of connection to psi abilities. And I'm telling you guys this because I have experienced stuff that I still cannot explain. And it is stuff that is truly, truly anomalous. And the people that were around me when it happened, they got spooked and they haven't spoken to me since. So where does that come from? That's the path that I've taken since I created the podcast. But when I saw Jake talking about this, I realized the massive level of importance his testimony has for every single experiencer out there who has been always judged and misinterpreted and segregated and, treated as if they were something different. They're also humans. Everybody's human here. I believe that everybody has the capability to eventually uh, get a hold or better control of these psi abilities. Granted, some people have it more developed than others, but I think that everybody has this capability. And right after I saw Jake getting emotional and talking about the sensation he felt, that rang a bell to me because that is the type of emotion I get whenever I remember the near death experience that I went through. And I'm just going to open myself up here to you guys a little bit just to let you know what happened that night. It was December 4th at night, 2014. I was just back from Guadalajara, where I was working as a sports journalist. I had been working for 4 years at the time. In the meantime, I was also partying extremely hard. I was really irresponsible with substance abuse. I was chain smoking. I was smoking marijuana daily. I was taking all types of psychotropic drugs, and I had no control. Had I continued down that path, I would have more than likely lost my life. So during that night of December 4th, 2014, that was actually a Sunday. Um, my family was out of town, and I had just been given a lot of money to do with it what I wanted. So I decided to party. After 3 days of hard partying, multiple different types of substances inside my body, my mother and two brothers came from a trip they made. They brought some food, and I was really hungry. And I came down really high on everything still. I ate the food extremely fast. And then I started feeling a really strong pain in my chest right here. And I almost fell. They got really scared because they didn't know what was going on. My mom grabbed me here and said, "Your heart is going insane. What happened?" And during that night, I had multiple different types of, I just call it seizures or attacks. I Everything was going white or dark. I felt uh, chills throughout my entire body. I felt like my heart was going to explode. I was really, really scared. And my mother was performing some protocols of breathing and meditation. And she's trained for that. She's been training for that her whole life. And when that was happening, I remember distinctly that I was talking to something. I was asking to be giving another chance to live because I really felt like I was going to die. And I said that I would turn my life around, but please, I asked for another chance. After the seizures stopped, I managed to get some sleep. But these attacks, they even took me to the hospital on the first day. I had to tell my mother everything, all my substance abuse history and everything. That was really heartbreaking for her. It was actually quite a relief for me because over that decade, the biggest sentiment that I felt was that I couldn't really be honest with my own mother. Um, and when I told her everything, I felt a relief because I wasn't carrying that guilt that one feels when one is not honest with someone they love unconditionally. Mother love is the first one you had. And it broke my heart every time I thought about not telling her what was going on. So after it all happened, when I finally went to sleep, my mom even got a little angry when I woke up. She was like, "You motherfucker." She was like, "You were laughing the entire time. I don't know what you were dreaming, but you were laughing." I remember what I was dreaming. I was walking towards a light and something was kind of pulling me from here. And I don't know what I was talking to, but this thing told me that I needed to go back and that I still had work to do, whatever that meant. When I returned and I woke up from that dream, I did feel something was different. I didn't struggle to stop doing substances. I I haven't touched a cigarette ever since. Um, Still drink occasionally. I do love wine and beer, but I never thought that was really the problem. The problem was hard drugs and cigarettes and essentially just an addictive personality to a lot of these substances. And when that passed, I just dropped everything cold turkey. And I don't know how that happened because my mom took me to a psychiatrist. She took me to a mental institution. They scared the fuck out of me there. They told me that based on everything that I've done, all the substances that I've consumed, I would more than likely be considered um, clinically insane before I turned 50. They scared the fuck out of me. And that's when I just started doing things that were more productive for my own body. But that conversation I had with this thing, that always stuck with me, you know? And it remained in the back of my mind. But when Jake mentioned this divine feminine energy and this feeling of intense sadness and happiness and love, that really clicked with me because that's what I felt. And that's what I still feel when I remember what happened that night. And I don't know, other things have happened since that make me think that I am being protected somehow. I don't know how else to describe it. And I'm sorry if this is not ringing true to anybody who is too nuts and bolts about the phenomenon. I don't intend for you to believe me or for you to take me seriously, or if you think my credibility is lost for talking about these topics, I'm sorry, but I think we need to start talking about this more. We need to start opening up more. We need to be more in touch with our emotions, everybody. And in America, there's a huge problem with people who believe that being more in touch with your emotions is a sign of weakness. I don't think that's the case. I think it's the exact opposite. So when I heard Jake talk about that, it all came back to me again. And I felt this intense emotion. And I feel Jake is being extremely brave for coming forward like this, uh, well knowing that he was going to get absolutely blasted by naysayers and by skeptics and debunkers. So I think that Jake created an effect by coming forward that was felt by all of these experiencers who were feeling left out of the conversation and ignored. And one of the signs that I saw was that during that night, and this doesn't happen to me often, it has happened a couple of times only, but I still don't know why it happens, but it happened that night. I went to sleep. I was dreaming okay. I was at a valley, I remember. And then suddenly I just felt like an electricity running throughout my whole body. And I woke up and I was getting chills and I couldn't control it. And I was trembling and I don't know what it was. There were some moments when I felt like if I looked out of my cover, because I was covered completely, it's really cold in my room, as you guys can see sometimes. I felt like at times that if I uncovered my cover, I would see something. And I was really scared and I didn't look out at all. This sensation of electricity running down my body persisted for about 15 to 20 minutes. And I wasn't able to go back to sleep anymore. And I was really curious to ask people from the community that we are all forming on multiple platforms and not just Psicoactivo, many other content creators, Discord groups, and all that. I wanted to ask them if they had something similar happen to them on that same night. And to my surprise, there were a lot of people who experienced something similar. They just woke up out of nowhere and they couldn't go back to sleep. They had different types of symptoms. Some were similar to mine, but they weren't all the same. And I don't know why that happened. I can't explain. I won't even try to come up with a hypothesis of it. I just know that that testimony was very powerful for a lot of people from Jake, and I applaud him for coming forward and being this vulnerable in front of the world. And after that, I also spoke to a couple of people who reached out to me. Some of them claim to be psionic assets too, or working for this program. And they told me that they're afraid of being segregated and judged and discriminated on because they are real. They exist. People with these skills exist, but they're people too. They just have different sensibilities. And if you guys have been following my channel, I think they are the ones that are going to help us all get into that next stage in human consciousness.
So the question I want to ask you is, where do you see us now in that evolutionary development?
Let me draw what is called a bell curve, which looks somehow like this. It's being used in describing random events. The bulk of the population today is this intelligent, more or less intelligent biped, all right? And with a vertical spine, and who pushes the buttons on TV and drives a car, etc., etc. Now, there is some backthrow. That is, there are some people here in this area, very few people who are still gorilla-like. That is, they are hairy. They beat their chest when they see their neighbors and a few other things. And then we have other people who are here in this corner, very few of them, who are very highly developed, because we say that evolution is now pushing mankind in this direction, away from the gorilla types towards the very highly evolved people. At this point, we're here. What's going to happen maybe 1 million years from now, 500,000 years from now? This curve is going to shift. It's going to shift like this. That is, the bulk of the population will be very, very highly evolved. We have gone away altogether from the gorilla types, no more gorillas. And what we have here now is the average man is now the retarded person in evolutionary terms. The bulk of the population is extremely, very, very highly evolved. And the cutting edge of evolution here, these are very, very highly evolved people. We can't even imagine what kind of person that will be. He may not have a physical body at all. What's the habitat, so to speak, of this group here? Well, you just go out and you find them. They're all over the place. The habitat of this group here, what do you think? What do you think you find these people here?
I suspect you would find them in universities. You'd find the people who are very bright, people who are in the leading edge of professions. That kind of thing. I mean, it's an intellectual thing.
Well, I suggest that you find them in mental hospitals, in nut houses. And the reason for that is that these people, they live in a different reality, in a reality which is very changed, and few of them are adapted to live in this reality. So naturally, they can't function very well.
And it is going to be really, really difficult, even more so with this level of reticence and rejection and reactionary takes about psi abilities. And honestly, I still think that the work Dr. Jacobo Grinberg was doing back in the 90s is central to all of this. He was studying psi abilities, all types, throughout his entire career. And then he was silenced. He disappeared. Somebody didn't want him doing that. And I think this is the reason why. Back in the 90s, I do think that humanity was less prepared than they are now to accept these types of truths. But I think we're ready. I think there's a lot more conversation around these topics. There's still a lot of stigma. Don't get me wrong. I think that this channel will keep moving forward, trying to dissipate this stigma. I'm going to do my best to not alienate people who are against this, because we need everybody. We need to dialogue about this, and so each side can understand the other one. If you have someone who is approaching you telling you they are experiencing really weird shit, maybe you should just, instead of dismissing their claims and calling them crazy, maybe you should listen to them and hear what they have to say and have an open mind about it. I think that would be a good idea, because I think psi abilities are inherently linked to empathy, and it's going to sound corny, I'm sorry, but I do believe it's linked to love, unconditional love, as Jake said. And this reticence is linked to the exact opposite force that is trying to suppress this. When I said that this was a war of consciousness, I meant it. I think we're currently undergoing that. And the discourse that is taking place within the UFO community and beyond the UFO community is part of this war. When you see people going at it and debating and sending each other the most heinous insults and doxing each other and harassing each other, that is part of this consciousness war. If you don't know how to identify those really negative and off-putting feelings that you get sometimes, you need to do better. It's not really that hard. And even if you think you're making a comment that is warranted and a criticism that is constructive, you still need to check on yourself and see the way you are communicating it. Because there are still ways of saying things that can be insulting for people or harmful, So you need to learn how to say things while still saying what you want to say. I think that is really, really important. So this was just to let all experiencers know that you guys are not alone. You guys have allies. I wouldn't consider myself something who has psionic abilities. I just experienced that when I was in my psychedelic trip multiple times, granted, but I haven't even tried ever since. So I am not part of that camp. However, I do believe that exists, and I am going to keep supporting it till the day I die. And I just want you guys to feel safe when you come to places like this, and speak to each other in the comment section and start sharing your experiences more with people who don't have them. What Jake did was an indication that whoever wants to share their stuff, you guys need to do it more often, because people need to hear what you got to say about this. The more people are aware that this is happening to just regular people, I think the faster it will be for us to get entangled and to understand each other. And yeah, I have a testimony from Ross himself after his show saying how skeptical he was about this. He does mention Dr. Stephen Greer, and I know that there's a lot of people that don't like Dr. Greer, but I do think that he deserves credit for talking about this before anybody else. He coined it CE5 and even, I think, trademarked it. And whenever you hear CE5, you think of him. But I've spoken to other people who have nothing to do with him that also talk about this, and they believe and say this is real. And now that we have this video from Jake and his team, that was the first of many that are about to be released that prove psi abilities exist. So here's the video of Ross talking about how skeptical he was about psi abilities and what made him change his mind. Here it is.
It's interesting, Tim, a lot of military personnel have actually said to me, including people, elite operators from the Special Forces, they've talked about their experiences with the phenomenon. In one of the things that we did as a preparatory exercise for this story, we actually went to a field very close to Fort Bragg, where the very elite of the American Special Forces are located. And we actually did CE5 with some of the people who have assisted in the preparation of this film. They are very, very interested, a lot of these elite military operators, in this kind of phenomena. They do not dismiss it. And as you say, Colonel John Blitch is one of those people. And the other two people, Don and Fred, who backed up Jake's story, and they have first-hand experience on the range with Jake, which is quite extraordinary. They are elite Tier 1 military operatives, very highly trained, the absolute creme de la creme of the military special forces in the United States. And it was an honour and indeed a real pleasure to get to know them. They're good human beings. They derive absolutely no benefit from telling me what they've told me and supporting Jake's story. And I find it intriguing because I freely admit, when I first spoke to Jake and I said, so how are we bringing down these craft? And he explained to me it's not the bringing down that's the issue, it's the summoning. How do we get them to come in the first place? And as we all know, there's long been talk, notably at Dr. Stephen Greer, for example, has talked about something that he calls CE5, where through meditation and some kind of trained meditative psychic involvement with the phenomena, it's been asserted that it's possible to attract the phenomenon. And look, I'll be honest, I was a skeptic about that until I met people who could do it. And I've been in the presence of people who were trained as psionic assists by the US military, and I've watched them do this summoning. And I know it's confronting, but by golly, it works.
Yeah. So I want to hear everybody's thoughts on what Jake talked about last Saturday and the reaction to this conversation. Why do you think this rejection comes instantly from so many people when they hear psi abilities or psychic powers? Or I know it's part of the stigma that has persisted, but there's also this gut feeling that and gut reaction that comes from some people that it's really hard to explain why it happens like that. It's instinctual almost. So I want to hear your thoughts about it. And let me know what you think about Ross Coulthard's journey from not believing in psi to believing in psi. If you have a similar journey, please share it in the comments. I want to hear it. And I think more people want to hear more about this, even though they don't believe in it. Because there are healthy skeptics that are just asking questions and being respectful about it. And I think those are the first ones that we need to reach. The other ones that are disrespectful, we also need to reach because we need everyone on this. But those are going to be a little more difficult. They're just going to take a little more time. So we need to be patient with all of them. But yeah, let me know. I'm eager to hear what you guys have to say about this. And please keep it respectful for everybody. And just know, people with psi abilities, you're not alone. We support you. And please keep coming forward. Please. Don't let this reaction was expected. Don't let it put you down. You need to come forward. The telepathy tapes kids came forward. Jake came forward. Chris Bledsoe came forward. Granted, he has a little bit more religious connotation to it, but that's okay. He grew up with that environment. You need to be brave and come forward too. And people, be respectful, please. Thank you. If you like the content you see, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Hit the bell icon so you can get notified when a new video drops. Comment and share every platform you want. If you want to support the channel in any other way, we have a members channel. It's like $5 or something. That's it. And there's a bunch of links in the description so you can take your pick if you want to support Psicoactivo in any other way. Thank you for the support. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Stay curious. Bye.